Santok is one of the oldest towns in Poland. Its location gave it vital strategic importance. The Santok community is located in the northern part of the lubuskie voivodeship, next to the voivodeship's capital, Gorzów Wielkopolski. 60 kilometers from the western border of Poland and the border crossing in Kostrzyń, 126 kilometers from Berlin, it covers an area of nearly 17,000 hectares, with a population of about 7,500. It comprises of 15 council villages. Santok was dubbed by Gal Anonymous the century and the key to Poland. The settlement between Warta and Noteć rivers was first mentioned in 1097, while its beginnings date back as far as the end of the 7th century. The spot where Noteć feeds into Warta River was a waterway entrance for merchants and warriors from the west to the Slavic cities which lay by these rivers. Thus, it is not surprising that it was here the mighty burh was built back at the tribal times, which protected the inhabitants of Poland from invasion in times of war and augmented trading fortunes to be built in times of peace. Santok was fought over for centuries. It was the target of the Pomeranians, the Brandenburgians, or the Teutonic Knights. Therefore, throughout the ages, the castle and the burg were destroyed and rebuilt numerous times. Archaeological excavations conducted in the 1930s by German archaeologists and in 1960s by the Polish ones allowed for a fairly detailed reconstruction of Santok's history. It is now represented at an exhibition at the Santok Burg Museum. These sources tell us that the first traces of settlement date back from the 1st century, from the Roman period, or that the medieval Slavic settlement was later replaced by a sheriff's burg, a seat of knights, later a town, since the 16th century a village. The other 14 villages of the community also have long history. Baranowice, a colony established in the 18th century in order to populate the local marshland. Czechów, a Slavic fishing settlement from the 12th century. Gralewo and Wawrów, knight villages from the 14th century. Janczewo, a knight's property from the 14th century. Stare Polichno, an ex-service colony of Santok. Nowe Polichno, a village from the 18th century. Lipki Wielkie, a 16th century settlement. Górki, Jarzębnik, Lipki Małe, Ludzisławice, colonies established between the 17th and the 19th centuries. The area's rich history has left its mark in the form of celebrated monuments, which include St. Joseph Protection Church in Wawrów, made of stone, from the break of the 13th and the 14th centuries, with an addition built in the 18th century. An 18th century palace surrounded by a park and a land estate in Lipki Wielkie. A church and a brick windmill from the 19th century in Czechów. A timber-framed church from the 17th century in Janczewo. A church from the 18th century with the main altar from the end of the 16th century in Gralewo. Bell tower from the 18th century in Santok. St. Joseph's Church from the 19th century in Santok, with an 18th century crucifix, and St. Otto's reliquary brought in 1997 to celebrate the 1300th anniversary of Santok. A brick viewing tower from 1936, erected at the site of a historic Teutonic castle tower. Among other tourist attractions, there is also the ferry crossing of the Warta River to the old burg site. The natural environment was a silent witness of Santok's history. The varied topography of the community ranges between 19 and 90 meters altitude above sea level. On one hand, it borders the edge of the Toruń-Eberswalde Valley and the North Pomeranian Lakeland on the other. 35% of the community's area is covered by forests. They are the Gorzów Forest and the Noteć Forest. On the lowlands of the Noteć and Warta Valley, there are also remains of the breeding forests, where 62% of all species of European water birds live. The dominant species of trees are black alder, white willow, black poplar, and also oak and ash. It is also a habitat of over 50 species of mammals, squirrels, hares, weasels, badgers, martens, wild boars, roe deer are among the most popular. One also might occasionally spot otters, beaver and muskrat. There are natural reserves and monuments of nature in the community's area. Forest Reserve Zdroisko Beach near Santoczna River, with specimen of over 200 years old, Santok Bend Reserve, which boasts a unique view over the flatlands of the Warta River bend, a protected landscape zone, the edge of the Warta Valley, located between the Gorzów city border and the Santok village buildings, protected landscape zone Balinek Forest, with the white ern eagle nests and 5 monuments of nature, 4 oaks and a plane tree, although there are many more trees deserving the title. The community's economy is still dominated by farming, though with a growing section of food processing industry. Lipki are the host of vegetable cultivation, sorting and storing. In Płomyków, there is a poultry processing plant. In Czechów, a meat parts processing enterprise. In Jančevo, an ice cream producer, Komages. The farmers are eager to take part in the agricultural programs of the European Union. Retail and services, as well as other branches of industry, are booming. In Wawrów, there is an upholstered furniture production enterprise. There is also a veneer production workshop and the electric materials wholesaler El Cab. In Górki, there is a paint and film production plant, while in Stare Polichno, there is the Mexpol enterprise. The community, in its development strategy, has defined 3 zones of intensive economic development. The western one in Wawrów, the central in Santok, and the eastern in Lipki Wielkie. In Wawrów and Płomyków, the industrial zones have been determined, whereas in Santok, a cultural one. The historic villages are meant to retain the original layout. Due to the extraordinary natural and historic qualities, the community's economy is developing more and more through the increase in tourist movement. The agricultural Santok and nearby villages of the past slowly turn into the suburbs of Gorzów and a place of recreation. Farmers sell their land to building developers and household builders. Certain investment in the communal infrastructure became necessary in order to meet the expectations of the new residents. Santok has joined the community association MG6, whose aims include the building of the water and sewage system in Gorzów and the 5 communities surrounding the city. The project of development of the Santok Promenade, which includes a plan to build a small amphitheater, a children's playground, a cycling path, and a canopy construction for barbecue, is undertaken. The project is conducted within the Village Revitalization and Cultural Heritage Preservation Program. The Warta and Noteć river embankments are to be modernized as well. The Community Council of Santok is the supervisor of various schools and educational institutions. Some of the students, especially on the secondary school level from the community, attend schools in Gorzów Wielkopolski. Moreover, the community is a host to Special Educational Center in Lipki Wielkie. It is a boarding school with 75 students. The community has 9 voluntary fire brigade units. Besides providing the fire combat and general rescue security, they also make a contribution to the integration of the local population, the community's cultural life and promotion of an active lifestyle. Likewise, the rural ladies' clubs have their influence not only on the daily lives of the local women, but also shape the local culture. Both organizations had a vital input in the Polish-German integration process. Santok is a part of the pro-Europa Viadrina Euro region and conducts many international projects financed by the EU, mainly through the two organizations' ventures. Moreover, the community also hosts such organizations as Santok's Nature and Historical Artifacts Preservation Fund, branches of the Polish Angling and Hunting Societies, the Polish Scouting Association, the Santok Disabled Aid Society, and the Polish Beekeepers Association. The community's culture center in Santok is the main cultural institution of the community, along with its branches in Czechów, Płomyków, Stare Polichno, Ludzisławice, Lipki Wielkie, Jastrzębnik, Nowe Polichno and Wawrów. The center hosts the artistic, music and dance sections. In Lipki Wielkie there is a drama section and a scouting team. The center in Santok also hosts the community's information center. The basic cultural values are also propagated by the community's public library in Santok, with a branch in Lipki Wielkie. Altogether, they stock a total of 21,000 books, with about 8,000 borrowings being made annually. There is also Santok Berg Museum, which is a cultural institution of a higher rank. It is a branch of the Lubuskie Museum in Gorzów. The community's policy emphasizes the further development of the cycling paths and of the waterway tourism. Santok is a stopover for various kayak routes along Obra, Warta and Noteć rivers, for cycling routes from Gorzów to Santok and other places within the area of the community, as well as for walking trails. The Yellow Trail from Gorzów to Santok, 17 kilometers, the Blue Trail from Santok to Skwierzyna, 22 kilometers, and the Green Trail from Górki Noteckie to Santoczno, 12 kilometers. Nowe Polichno boasts a horse riding center with several farming households offering rooms for tourists such as Florida in Gralewo and Arco in Janczewo. In Santok, near the Noteć Bridge, not far from the local culture center, a yacht port and a boat hangar bay are planned. There is also a camping field nearby. In Lipki Wielkie, in the old school building, there will be a culture center with a library, a conference hall and a hostel with rooms for up to 30 people. The most important tourism and recreation-oriented events in the community's calendar are as follows: the national kayak trip, the so-called lubuskie water trail on the Obrzyca, Obra and Warta rivers with a finish in Santok, the national bicycle race over the lubuskie area with a finish in Santok, the Speedway National Junior Championships of teams and individual races at the mini tracks in Wawrów, the national official contest in horse carriage driving, and the gathering of the water enthusiasts of the Euro-region Pro Europa Wiadrina in Santok. The Santok community hosts numerous sport organizations: Sport Clubs Warta Wawrów, Iskra Janczewo, Kasztelania Santok, Delta Stare Polichno and Polonia Lipki Wielkie, each with a football section. There is also the horse riding sport club Santok, which specializes in carriage driving, and a speedway club in Wawrów. Various investments which will improve the community's development and the standard of living in the area are planned for the upcoming years. They include the development of the tourism and education infrastructure between two national parks, a further development of interregional and international cycling paths, an increase of river sailing and water tourism, on the local rivers, the modernization of the railway parallel to the European road number 22, Berlin, Kostrzyn, Gorzów, Gdańsk, and the implementation of the Nature 2000 preservation areas.